My fabulous guest today is Mel Waters, founder of Yoga Tapas with Mel Waters in Jarvis Bay, New South Wales, Australia. Melissa, I'm so excited to have you on Light Conversations. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Oh, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. It's been a beautiful day here today. It's been gorgeous.
Oh, well, thank you. I know it's really late there, nighttime where you are, it's morning here. You're approaching summertime as well, I guess, and we are approaching winter. We had frost this morning, which is the first time. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
I think my husband had one of his first swims today of the season, so I'm yet to get myself in the water, but it's nice out there at the moment.
slightly jealous of that sounding.
Sorry.
All good, all good.
The best not to post pictures of the place up. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
No worries. Before we dive in and talk about all the amazing and fabulous work that you're doing with yoga and Ashtanga Yoga, can I ask you, in case anyone out there is thinking, you know, about food and where the name tapas came from?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, you'd be right to think it's something food related, since I've got my background is in restaurants originally. So keep it short and sweet. Ashtanga translates as 8 limbs, and these 8 limbs are sort of pathways or guidelines on how to live your life to finally reach sort of samadhi, so bliss. Anyway, so the first sort of 3 limbs, for example, the first limb is yama, and that has 5 different branches. And yamas are things that you shouldn't do. So ethical standards, so non-violence, non-stealing, that sort of thing. The second limb, niyamas, are things that you should do. So how you should behave, or yourself, so self-study, things like that. And tapas is one of the branches off of the niyamas. And tapas translates, is a Sanskrit term, and translates as heat. But it's the heat that's generated or invoked from like a fiery discipline or from passion. So it kind of made sense for me to call myself that, because I practice with this intention and with this passion, and that's kind of how I teach as well. And I think that's how you should go about your daily tasks anyway. I mean, it's not just necessarily yoga related. Those first 2 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, so you can practice yoga without even getting on the mat. So just practicing those first 2 limbs alone is just how you behave and how you perceive the world. So you can mop a floor with tapas. You know, it's not necessarily yoga related, but that's where the name comes from. But it is quite cute that I am from a restaurant background, so it's kind of got that little link to my previous life.
It does, doesn't it? It has that slight quirkiness to it as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. It does take some explaining. You would have thought I would have had that really nailed in a nutshell, but no, I still go off on a little bit of a tangent whenever I talk about it.
Well, I think you explained it beautifully, and like you say, it's quite in depth, isn't it? The pathways or the guidelines, you know, these 8 limbs of yoga, the niyamas and the yamas, the do's and the don'ts, and they're quite, you know, the fundamentals of how of yoga, really, aren't they? So it's the first things that you learn, isn't it?
And it isn't just the physical aspect. There's so much more to it, you know. But, you know, if people want to start doing the physical aspect first of all, and then start taking in the other limbs, that's all good. That's how a lot of us start.
And I love how you said that, you know, you could be mopping the floor, but you could do it with tapas. You could do it with fiery intention. It's, you know, that discipline, isn't it?
Just so even getting up out of bed and rolling your mat out, you know, just getting out of bed and just, you know, it stems much further than just holding a funky posture.
Can you describe Ashtanga Yoga and how does it differ to the other types of yoga?
Okay, so the physical aspect of Ashtanga Yoga, so the physical practice. It's a relatively dynamic method of yoga. We follow a set sequence of postures, which in time and with regular practice, you add to the sequence, deepening and lengthening the sequence and enhancing the experience. Only obviously when you're physically and mentally ready to take on more of the postures, and you progress through at your own pace. It's the only, actually, I believe it's the only yoga method out there that's actually designed for self-practice. So the beauty of having this set sequence of postures is the idea is that you memorize this and you're allowed to take yourself off and practice at your own pace.
Right.
Always with the focus on the breath. And that's the main point of this practice is the focusing on the breath as well.
Okay. And how did Ashtanga Yoga find you?
I've got my sister to thank for that, actually. Yeah, because I was always very much a gym person, very much at the gym. You know, if I wasn't sweating or panting or anything, it wasn't considered a workout for me. And Penny would say, you should try this Ashtanga. She's been doing it years before me. You know, you should try this. I'm like, no, I want to be able to sweat. She's like, you're gonna sweat. Because it's designed to make you sweat as well. The idea is to sweat during this practice, to it's a very cleansing process, and that helps eliminate the toxins. So I just went along to one, and that was it. That's all it took, was one. I came out drenched, and I just had that, which a lot of people do experience, that coming out of the shala or the studio, just coming out, just feeling like so light, just like I'm walking on a cloud, and just like it was just a one go. That was it. I was hooked. But it was a physical practice, you know. I was never into that. What started like, I don't know about the spirituality. I don't know. And I went in physically for the fitness side of it, and it was great. And then after a while, when you start really tuning into the breath and it's that self-practice thing where you can just take yourself off, and all you're focusing on is the movement with the breath. Then things start to change a little bit, and then you start to really reap the meditative benefits of it. And it's addictive. But it's also, you know, it's a good physical workout as well. So it's definitely worth giving a go.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, it's because, you know, you do sometimes think about yoga as being maybe not so dynamic and active, and you know, you don't think of the kind of the sweatiness of it as you would, you know, going to the gym. But Ashtanga is probably that type of yoga which is particularly
it is, but I'm always really wary that kind of puts people off as well. But also, because I've had to, since coming down south, down here, you know, there's no one doing an Ashtanga near me where I am. Right. There's a couple of doctors around, but where I am, and I had to really ease people into it, because it's kind of got a little bit of a bad, I mean, it's not bad rep, but it's got this whole like, oh, it's really tough, it's really hard. It's like, it's only really as tough and as hard as you want it to be. You know, it's because like I said, it's about self-practice, and I do this with my classes as well. Like, everybody's at different levels and different abilities, and you know, there's some people who have their own little modifications, and it's always your own practice. You know, if you want to hang a little bit longer on one more posture than the other, it's your practice. You know, and again, the beauty of knowing the sequence is that you don't really have to pay too much attention to me. You know, you can just use me for verbal cues, and then it becomes internal. You know, and ideally, I think they say, if you're when you're a good Ashtanga teacher, well, you don't have any more students, because they just go, they go practice on their own. Which, you know, for me, when I hear of any of my practitioners who practice with me, when I find out they're self-practicing and this, it's like, it's amazing, it's brilliant.
Brilliant. And I think what you just said there kind of brings it back to the 8 limbs you talked about as well, the sort of self-practice.
Yeah.
this taking it and doing it in your own pace. And I think one of the limbs you mentioned is non-violence. So it's being non-violent to yourself and being kind to yourself in a way, isn't it? So
so that's one of the yamas. So that's things that not to do. So that's non-violence. I mean, I could go through the Sanskrit terms, but I'll just embarrass myself with the pronunciation of them. But so the yamas have 5 limbs. So it's non-stealing, truthfulness, and all that sort of thing. But sorry, what were you saying? Sorry, my lovely.
I was just saying it's really interesting how you know, bringing it back when you were saying how the practice is a self-practice when you're there with your students, and everyone can take it at their own pace. I think you said people were put off by Ashtanga, so people are being put off by it because it seems like probably the most dynamic of yoga, and that maybe scares people a little bit. But actually, you take it at your own pace. You do it in the way that you want to do it, and then you just improve, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it's I do say to people, you'll get further through the sequence quicker the slower you take it. And I think also remember that the most traditional way of learning this sequence is, well, it's called Mysore style, because that's obviously where it was originated from. And how you were taught this sequence is you turn up at the shala in the morning, you're given the warm-up postures, maybe the first 1 or 2 postures. Then you send, okay, go away, come back tomorrow morning. Then you come back tomorrow morning, you do the same thing over and over again, maybe given the next sequence, next posture. When you're completed doing that, when you're confident in doing that, when you're comfortable in that, then you're given the next. And you only move through when you're ready to. And ideally, that's a good way to learn. It's a safe way to learn. But it's not done so much now, because what you find is that there's some things later on in the sequence that will benefit your earlier practice anyway. So the whole Ashtanga police thing is kind of fizzling out a little bit now. We're a little bit more, well, I certainly am. And I think it's safer to be a little bit more relaxed and say, look, okay, if you can't do that posture, it doesn't mean you can't necessarily do the next one, because that might actually benefit your earlier practice anyway. That's my opinion.
There are lots of different types of yoga out there. I know I've dabbled in so many, and the one that resonated with me personally has been Kundalini yoga. What advice would you give people who are practicing yoga but yet haven't found the one that resonates most with them?
Then try Ashtanga if you haven't, because this one works.
Try Ashtanga, love it.
If you're comfortable, if it works for you, do you know what I mean? If it works for you, there's so many different forms. I mean, I've only ever really stuck to Ashtanga. I've done a little bit of yin every now and again. But I actually found it really hard to stay still for so long. I found that really, really hard. And there's some vinyasa flows like that. Yeah, it's very hard for me to really comment on any other forms, really, when I'm so just like, well, this one works. But again, it depends on what your needs are. I know, I mean, I really want to dabble a little bit more in Iyengar, and that's really restorative. And I think that's very useful, particularly as our bodies get older as well, and we have all these little ailments coming along, and knees and hips and all this. I think Iyengar is a really sensible one to look at as well. But again, try them and just see what works, you know. Sometimes it's not even the actual physical practice. Sometimes it's just a bit of pranayama, so breath work and meditation is enough. It's huge. It depends on the person completely.
I like how you've just brought in the word breath work, because that was leading into my next question, actually. Beautifully led to. We're so in tune. And so how important is breath work in Ashtanga yoga?
Incredibly. It's the only thing that you really need to focus on in the practice. It's main focus of the practice. So we breathe a very steady and measured breath, inhaling through the nose and out through the nose throughout the whole practice. And we use a technique called Ujjayi breathing, which is breathing with sound, and it's achieved by just a slight tightening of the glottis at the back of the throat. So it's a slight restriction at the back of the throat, and it creates a very gentle hissing sound as you inhale and exhale. It's been likened to the sound of a distant ocean. So there's a few reasons why we do this. Firstly, I mean, physically, the raspy and the vibrations of the Ujjayi breath help also generate that extra heat in the body. So that's quite good. But most importantly, the sound, it gives you something to focus on. So again, this is the whole thing of tuning everything inwards. So when you're practicing, all you're listening to is that steady inhale, steady exhale. And it almost becomes like a metronome. And you're moving through with the breath. So you're moving into the postures with the breath, holding the posture for 5 breaths, transitioning, all with the same rhythm throughout. And it's incredibly important because think about what the breath can do. It can calm you down, it can invigorate you, it can excite you. It's completely can manipulate your nervous system completely. So it's incredibly important. Don't forget, it's it's your life force. It's the first thing you do. It's going to be the last thing you do. It's incredibly important. So even if you're practicing Ashtanga and you can't do all these crazy moves, or you're only doing a certain posture in a certain way at your maximum capacity or whatever you can do, it doesn't matter as long as you're breathing that steady breath. You're doing Ashtanga. That's the main focus. And I always say, if you're in a posture and it's preventing you from breathing in such a way, you ease up off the posture. You never sacrifice it. It's incredibly important. And just going off on a complete and utter tangent now, I'm just reading a book at the moment called Breath. Breath. It's by James Nestor. I only just started reading it, so I can't go quoting it or anything like that now, but it's a study on the importance of the breath, and it's all about breathing through the nose. And actually, breathing through the mouth is it's a big no-no.
Yeah.
And through this practice, it's always through the nose. So there is a lot more to it, through physiology and just the dynamics of the body. It's vital.
That's so interesting you say that, because we think about our breath actually and our nervous system and the different, I guess I'm going to say it wrongly and incorrectly, so apologies to everyone, but the autonomous nervous system, right, where your heart rate, everything else, your circulation, not in our control. The only thing that is in our control is our breath, and having that control over our breath. So it really calms that nervous system down, like you just said, right? Kind of brings us back into that space. And I love that you said, is it the Ujjayi breath that you mentioned? It's like the distant ocean. I mean, sounding like the distant ocean. Beautiful. Would you like to give us a share a technique or give us a demonstration of that breath, or another kind of breath work that you would use?
I could do. I mean, the Ujjayi breath is probably the easiest one to do as an example of the pranayama techniques. I could do, but I'd rather just stick to something that I would teach normally in a class, and if that's all right. So the Ujjayi breathing, it's just that slight restriction at the glottis at the back of the throat, so always into the lungs. So you're drawing in from the navel. There's no movement here. There's always a subtle tone here, and it's always breathing into the rib cage, breathing into the lung. And it's a. I don't even know if you can hear that. It's quite subtle, but I can hear it in my head, and that's the most important thing.
So if you can hear it in your head, that's right. You're doing it. So.
It is meant to be subtle. But so it's. I think there's other techniques of achieving it by starting with huffing out the mouth, but then closing the mouth halfway through so it comes out the nose. So it's almost like a, so it's almost like the breath is circulating around the mouth. But yeah, it takes a little while. Some of my students are getting used to doing it now, but it's quite a lot to remember when you're trying to move in these certain postures, and it's like, and then I me going, remember to breathe. Like, oh yeah. But yeah, it takes a little bit of doing, but it's a valuable tool.
And I guess from my own experience of yoga, I know sometimes it's really easy to not breathe. So you're holding a posture, a pose, and you're thinking, oh, you're kind of trying to hold it, but you're not breathing, and that's kind of defeats the purpose, right?
Yeah, it really does, because trust me, everything's a lot easier when you can breathe. But that's what I said before, you know, you never sacrifice the posture, and in this sequence there's so many deep twists and this, that, the other, and it's like, right, well, if you're so deep in that twist that you can't breathe, then you've got to come away from it. It will happen in time, you know. There's no rush. Yoga's for life. This practice is for life.
Yeah.
Once you get a dedicated practice, I mean, once you're in.
Yeah.
It's a 6-day-a-week practice.
And yeah, like you say, it's for life, because there's a lots of information, lots of different variations or forms of yoga.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's so interesting. I mean,
and it never gets boring, even though it's the same sequence, because people say it does not get boring doing the same sequence over and over again. It's like, no, every day is different, every practice is different. Some days it's like, you know, you can have a really deep practice. Others you have to stop halfway through, because it's like, right, that's it, I'm done. Your body's so different, it changes daily. But the advantage also of it doing the same sequence is you can really monitor your progress as well. You can see how you grow and develop and tackle certain challenges through the practice as well. It's a really good way of gauging your process and your progress.
Would you suggest to people to maybe practice something for 40 days?
Well, you need your breaks. You do need your breaks, but yeah, definitely. I mean, I think to get an effect of anything, really, you need to do it for a period of time. You know, if you're on some sort of, you know, even like dieting or some form of diet or whatnot, you've got to do it for a period of time to notice any sort of change. You do get the sort of instant high from it when you do practice. You know, I think some people do anyway. I mean, I've seen it. A few people come away going, oh my God, that was brilliant. And then they come back the next time and it's wonderful. But certain things can really change in you when you do it for a very regular period of time. So yeah, do it 40 days. But have a break though, obviously. Do it 6 days a week if you can. But don't push yourself either.
Take it at your own pace.
Always.
So things start shifting, not only when you're through the yoga practice, but other things start shifting within you as well. So it's to notice.
Definitely. There was one. It kind of just. It sort of happened a little while ago. I sort of remembered how my mindset started to change after a while. I started to become very aware of the world around me, and again, the first two limbs were really I've been really more aware of it. Just my choices and things like that, about how I lived and how I saw that, and yeah, it can really affect you and change you for the better, you know. So
totally transformation, right? Growth and transformation.
And I never thought for one moment I was going to be meditating and doing breathwork. I never thought I'd go down that route, but it's, oh my word, why wouldn't you? It's amazing. It's like, why haven't I been doing this?
I know, you know, I've had someone say to me, oh, meditation doesn't change the world. Like, well, it sort of does. It changes my world. It changes a huge amount.
If it's good for your mind, if it's good for you, if it's good for your soul, if it makes you a better person, And if
so
you
in a
treat
sense,
people better because of it,
yeah,
why not?
so in a sense, I think it changes a lot, doesn't it? It changes your perception on things and how you react and respond to things, your external world. And I guess, you look at yoga and meditation and what these spiritual practices can help with. It's, if it can change us and our perception and how we react to things, it can only be positive, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
You mentioned earlier, just what picked up on, the what you said at the beginning, I think was around intention and setting an intention for your practice. What would you advise viewers, listeners to do in terms of setting an intention before your practice? What kind of intention would you set?
So so I never get on the mat thinking, right, I'm going to do a full practice, I'm going to do this is what I'm going to do. So I just get on the mat, and that is my intention. Get on the mat. And no matter what or how big a practice you do, if you get on the mat and you just end up doing the warm-ups and some of the standing sequence, and if you think I'm done, then you're done. But do it well. Even if you're on the mat for just a few sun salutations, do them well. And then call it a day, and that's absolutely fine. So just the intention, I think, is just no matter how little you do, just do it well. But don't put yourself out there. Don't just say to yourself, right, this is what I need to do. And then if you don't achieve it, you're going to beat yourself up about it. Or you're going to just drag yourself through a whole sequence or drag yourself through a practice, not really wanting to do it. What's the point? You're not going to get anything out of it. You might even injure yourself. So even if you just, first things first, get yourself on the mat, breathe, start moving through it. Guaranteed you'll do a lot more than you think you're going to do. But yeah, don't set anything, don't set the bar too high, just go with the flow.
Love it. Go with the flow, exactly. So those who are, maybe thinking about trying Ashtanga, there you go, Mel's just said it. Get on the mat. Do it
on the mat.
Breathe and go with the flow.
Just get on the mat, and don't expect to be able to achieve everything, or first off, straight off the bat, or even if you know full well you can do the entire sequence, it doesn't mean you're going to be able to do it today. I don't know what's going to happen when I get on the mat. I have a routine, but I don't beat myself up about it if I don't complete the whole sequence when I'm supposed to do all this. It's like, no, how am I feeling? Different. The moon makes a massive difference where it is in the sky, the weather, what I've eaten the day before, or women's things, emotions,
cycle. Totally, yeah.
Cycle, a big issue. Yeah. So don't force yourself to do anything just because you think to yourself, I should be doing a full practice. Yeah, you probably should, but do what feels right for you. It's got to feel good. You've got to come off that mat feeling good. And if you forced yourself through something, that's never going to feel good.
Yeah. So yeah, I love that. Check in with yourself before you commit. So
check yourself before you wreck yourself, I think.
Oh, say again?
I said check yourself before you wreck yourself, I think. Isn't that my
Mel's new mantra, check in with yourself before you wreck yourself.
I'm bringing a bit of urban yoga.
Well, I was going to say, let's take a few steps back a few years. That doesn't even make sense, does it? I might have to edit that bit. I was going to say, let's rewind a few years. And before you became this amazing Ashtanga yoga teacher, you grew up in London and Northampton. I guess, very different to where you are now. How was that growing up in London and Northampton for you?
Yeah. I mean, I had a little bit of a break during my London time. I was born there, grew up there, and then I moved to Northampton for about 10 years. It was quite an experience. Definitely ups and downs. We'll skim over my time in Northampton. It was just, it wasn't the best of times, but I don't look back and regret anything. Every experience I've been through has turned me into the person I am now. So I'm not one of these people who look back and think, oh, I wish I had done that. No. Everything has happened for a reason, and it's got me where I am. I mean, how can I complain? I'm fine as I am, right?
Yes.
But then going back to London, I just got stuck into my work in restaurant work, and it was crazy, but I loved it. Always thought I was going to be a Londoner through and through until I stepped away from it 4 or 5 years ago. But no, London was great. I mean, the yoga teachers there are incredible. That's obviously where I started my practice. So that was a great advantage, and yeah, it's can't really complain really. The restaurant business and the restaurant scene over there is incredible, and I was very, very, very lucky to work in some of the best restaurant companies in London as well.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, it was very prestigious restaurants, didn't you? Yeah. At that time, did you ever think you would be practicing and teaching Ashtanga Yoga?
No way, man. No way. I never thought I'd be out of London. I never thought I'd be out of the city. I never ruled out moving to another city or to another country. I mean, I never thought the opportunity would come. But I never thought for the life of me I would be living in a little remote region in New South Wales. I never thought that would South Coast. I never thought that would. Hello, Johnson. My cat's come to join me. Hello, Johnson. Yeah, so I never thought that would happen. You have to excuse me. The cat distracted me. So.
What? We love our cat friends.
Yes, we do. Yes, all species. So it was. I can't remember what we were saying. I'm so sorry. I got completely distracted.
I think he was just saying that, you never imagined living in this beautiful place like Jarvis Bay. I mean, it is so idyllic. I mean, anyone.
Yeah.
Look how beautiful this place is.
Yeah. And I just always thought I was going to be a city girl through and through. And then when it came to, I had the decision to move to Australia, I just thought, I'm going to have to be in Sydney because there's no way I can live anywhere but a city. And then you take yourself out of it for a few weeks, and you're like, how did I live like that? I don't know. It's manic. I go back now and I just think, oh my gosh, it's so manic. And I moved over here, and I moved to a city. Well, they call it a city, but being from London, it was more like a town called Wollongong. So I moved straight over to Wollongong, which is a couple of hours south of Sydney. And I thought at first that was going to be a little bit quiet. And for me now, I find that city still quite hectic, and it's more like a town. We would consider it a town.
Right.
No, I never thought for one moment I would be in this situation now. No. Brilliant. I'm not complaining.
No. Well, I mean, like you, I grew up in London. I'm a Londoner. I always thought I would be, a Londoner. I moved out. I travelled, went to uni in Wales and travelled. And I travelled Australia. I travelled for 18 months in Southeast Asia. 8 months, I think I was. And we moved out of London. And actually, to me, my parents are still there. They can't see, they come here to where we live in Chorleywood, which, our house backs onto some woods, and I love running in the woods. One of my favorite things is to run in woodlands in nature and be out there in nature. Yeah, it's the thought of going back and living in London to me just like no.
I almost get a panic attack. I think the last time I went back there, I was in Euston Station, I think, waiting for my sister. We were going to go, believe it or not, to a yoga shala, a really good yoga shala in Euston. And I almost was like, oh my gosh, it was just the look on people's faces, the stress, you know, and it's, oh my word. And I was one of those people. And I considered myself happy as well. But I think once you're stuck in that routine, and, you know, it was the norm, you know, and it was only when my husband would come over, it wasn't my husband then, but he would come over and he'd see this community. He was like, you're insane. What's going on? I'm like, this is how we live. This is London. This is, you know, we're a Londoner. It's fine. It's like, no. Do you want to come and live over here? I'm like, what? He didn't have to ask me twice.
I was going to say, I didn't take much twisting of arms, I don't think.
Yeah, he didn't have to ask me twice. But yeah, it's hard to believe that I was living like that. I still think it's insane.
What advice would you have for anyone living in a city who may be thinking of leaving the city, but aren't quite ready to commit to it?
Well, I don't understand why you can't. I mean, unless obviously you've got work commitments and things, but you've always got the choice to come back, surely. Like, so wherever you move to, surely you've got the option to come back. I mean, if you haven't got the option to come back, then obviously think long and hard about a decision. But majority of the time, you can always go back if you don't like it. But I'm pretty certain a lot of people who do finally leave and find that place. I mean, it could even be a slightly smaller city than the mad hustle of London. I mean, you think of places like Bath and you know, cities like Bath is a city, isn't it? Yeah, Bath is a city. Yeah. It's got a university, doesn't it? Yeah. So, you know, cities like that, and then even in Wales, like places in Wales, it's beautiful, you know. I think London's not the be all and end all, you know. But if you're in our other cities, there are other areas that are just, there's such beauty in the UK. There really is.
Oh, yeah.
It's a really beautiful place.
Oh, so
yeah. Last time we were there, we spent some time in the Lake District, and my in-laws are in Wales as well. And it's striking. It's beautiful country out there. The choice is unbelievable, but I think it's just an employment thing, maybe.
Interesting how maybe, you know, COVID has been a really, obviously very challenging time for a lot of people, and, you know, not downplaying at all, you know, there's been a lot of illness and death, and it is awful. The one change that we've seen in terms of work during this time is people now working from home and having the option to work from home. My husband works a lot now from home, whereas previously it wasn't seen as an option. Some companies were quite flexible anyway. A lot of companies were not flexible. What you're sort of seeing now is actually that opportunity for people to work from home is now available. So people are moving maybe a little bit further out and being able to you know, live in places that maybe they previously didn't think they were able to. So, and enjoy a bit of our beautiful, you know, British countryside as well. So, and just be able to get out more and just go and enjoy, you know.
Well, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? I mean, we're noticing that here. We've got heaps of people moving down from Sydney now to these houses here, and it's well, why wouldn't you? You know, sell your house in Sydney and you can buy a mansion down. You sell your unit in Sydney and you can buy a mansion down here. You know, by the water, and it's why wouldn't you? You know, but if you can't move, and you have to be in the city, and you have, there's reasons you can't move, or you just don't want to move, but just make sure that your workspace at home is good, and you have a separate workspace. I think it's very important, if you're working from home, make sure the space around you is adequate, and there's one thing, get outside as much. Well, I suppose you can't breathe as much air, open the window. I know you can't at the moment get outside and walk. I don't know, with these new lockdowns coming and the full restrictions are. But if you are having to work from home, at least do your best to leave the house at some point during the day.
Yeah, the new lockdown rules are not as strict as the previous ones. We are, you're allowed to go and exercise. So this starts on Thursday. You're allowed to go and exercise with one other person outside, so you can go for a run with someone. It's not limited like we were in the first one. And obviously, those who have children, like myself, can do the school. We've got the school run as well. So you've got the schools are open, so you can still say hello to people on the way. So, and then you can still go running. So I've been a bit slack on my running, actually, the last couple of weeks. I've taken a little bit of a break, but a lot's been going on. So, I had to kind of, like you say, check in, bring that awareness to yourself, check in with yourself, saying, right, what do I need to do today? What am I feeling that I want to be doing? And actually, for the first time in over a year, it was like, actually running wasn't on my list. Although tomorrow I'll be getting out there in those beautiful woods.
Sit amongst it, man. Sit amongst it, breathe it in. I mean, the trees have an amazing energy, and just be amongst them, be amongst nature. That's what people need. That's the problem, I think. One of the main problems about being in the city, you forget. I'm sure people forget there's nature out there and how important it is and the effect it can have on you. It really is. It's very powerful, and I mean, even got beaches or whatever, but I love going out in the bush, and I love my mountains and things like that. And there's just going off on a little tangent, and it was only when I read this visit. There's a tree. It's a little bit down the road. I think it's about 40-minute driveway in this bush down. I think it's called Morton National Park. And it's called Old Blotchy, and it's one of the biggest spotted gums in New South Wales or something like this. And it is absolutely massive. And the trunk, the base of the trunk almost feels like concrete. It's that solid. And I think it's one of the oldest or tallest or so. It's incredible. And you have to really struggle down a dirt road to find it. I won't go on to how we managed to get our way out of it, but we took a bit of a detour in our little Corolla, which was a bit of a mistake. But anyway, coming to this tree, I just sat there amongst it, and I'm sure there was this energy I was getting from this tree, and I never thought this London girl would be talking about basically tree hugging, But it was really something, and I think that's another thing that you people need to experience, or at least allow yourself to experience nature more. It's good for the soul.
Totally. I'm totally with you. And as we talk about tree hugging, I am going to say it here right now. We, when we're in the woods, I even have the children hugging trees. We put our hands on the trees, we feel the energy of the trees, of Mother Earth. We smell it, we take the smells in. And my son, especially my son, he'll hug it and say, "Mummy, I feel the energy." He's 6.
Get young.
So you know what, it's you go out in nature and you do feel that energy, that connection. And I think it's really important that, especially during times like this, when our root chakra, particularly when that security kind of we feel a bit unstable during these times, the best cure for getting our root chakra back into balance and into alignment, to get out there, sit with nature. Just, you don't have to hug a tree if you're not there yet, ready for it. And just be with it and see how nature is acting around you, and see the connectivity of nature, the collaboration of it. Even now when we're looking at the seasons and how in the last couple of weeks the leaves have all fallen here. We're in autumn, and but the abundance is so there. There is so much abundance out there. You see the squirrels, you're seeing the birds of the berries. It's beautiful. So thank you for sharing your story about your tree. I think it's very important.
Oh, it's amazing. It really was. It was the first time I've really experienced something like that. It was quite full on. It was like, whoa. And I've just always really wanted to go back there and just sit with it. I've always had this urge, but it was disaster trying to drive out of it. I think we're a bit reluctant to go back until we have a 4x4 or something.
So just going on to the I guess the last few questions. I know it's getting really late for you, so thank you so much, Mel. Really loving this conversation with you today. It's amazing. And if you had your younger self here next to you now, what advice would you give yourself?
Probably sit on the floor more. Sit on the floor. Stop sitting on chairs and sit on the floor more. Your hips are going to thank you for it. And also, I'd probably say to myself, no, dare I say the V word, about going vegan. I'd probably say, educate yourself on where your food comes from. Know exactly how that food gets on your plate, and I think it will change the choices that I've made in the past. Because working in the restaurant business, I was surrounded by everything, and I'd eat everything, but I never really had that connection of how it actually got onto the plate. And I think understanding and learning and really acknowledging how it happens has had a profound effect on me, and I've been vegan a few years now, and it's the best thing I've ever done, and I just wish I'd done it sooner. And I think probably my younger self would have been a bit more of an activist with it as well, and I wish I'd done some more for it. But now it's just the choices that I make now to redeem myself. But yeah, if my younger self would be, if my younger self understood where the food was coming from, know the processes that the animal goes through in order to get on my plate, and then if I still chose to eat it, then so be it. But don't put the blinkers on, don't pretend that it doesn't exist when it does. But I won't go into it too much. I won't get too preachy, because then you'll be here for another 2 hours or something.
We can have another conversation on that. There's always other conversations.
It is another conversation. I'm very passionate about it. But yeah, I wish I'd done that sooner. I wish I'd gone vegan sooner. Yeah.
I love how you say that about, making those choices. Just, there are so many things that we just do without thinking about it.
Yeah,
being
and
aware.
We're lazy with our choices. We're lazy with our choices as well. I think we take an easier option a lot of the time, and sometimes that option isn't always the best one. A lot of the time the things that we choose has a profound effect on someone or something or other species or another being of some sort. And I think we need to have a bit more of awareness of how we behave and the choices that we do, and how it will have an effect on something or someone somewhere. So that it does sit really heavy with me about the effects of it all. So I try and encourage it as much as I can without sounding really preachy.
But
go vegan.
When we're younger, we're programmed a lot of the way time, aren't we? We're programmed to think certain things, and we're conditioned so much from our culture, from our parents, from our schools, in the environment that we're in. And I feel that I'm very hopeful that we're entering a much more conscious and aware, where people's awareness are a lot more than they were, back then. So it's those conscious choices that we make, right? quite important.
Yeah.
So again, last couple of questions before we finish. As a small business, you know, you run your own yoga practice, this, you know, beautiful Yoga Tapas with Mel Waters, and I'll put obviously all your details, your Facebook, your Instagram, all on the bottom of this post as well, so people can find you. How challenging has it been for you during COVID?
Yeah, it was, because not only the COVID, like I've started sort of setting up my own little thing. It's only been sort of just over a year now, and I've sort of got the momentum going. And then we had the bushfires, so it was a big break because I was starting at this local studio here as well. So a new lady's taken it over, so she was sort of starting getting momentum up. So I was starting to get some regular people, and then we had these bushfires. So that was a big break. Came back, started up again, got the momentum going, COVID, and it's like, oh my word. So for my own sanity, I thought, well, I want to keep keeping the rhythm of teaching. So I was doing online teaching and offering online classes all throughout the week as well, which kept me in check. But it also some of my regular students. I mean, I still do a Tuesday online class now as well, just because we've just kept the rhythm. And I also do an evening class, which my friends and family in the UK log on to, which I set up originally so they could practice, and they've kept doing it. And I've opened it up to others as well. Yeah, so I just had to embrace it and just say, right, well, I want to keep teaching. It was never like a fixed rate I was charging. It was just like donate, basically, you know, because what else am I doing? I'm sitting around, I'm practicing anyway. And that made me such a better teacher as well, because when you're teaching online as opposed to being in a room, it's a completely different situation altogether. It's completely different. You kind of have to demonstrate a lot as well, I found, when you're teaching online. So it was quite physically exhausting as well, trying to teach and demonstrate and have your own practice as well. It did take a little while to get my body used to that sort of routine. It took a lot out of me to start with. But luckily, my husband practices, so it got into the point, and then he would be practicing, so I could use him as a demonstration as I'm teaching, and he'll be in the background practicing, so I don't necessarily have to hold all the postures and whatnot. Bob would be there as my lovely little assistant. I call him Bobby McGee. He's my little Bobby McGee.
I love that. Those from Britain will know that reference well. Those from Britain will know that reference.
Yeah. So yeah, I just embraced it. I just thought, no, I'm not going to let this get me down. No. I want to offer this to as many people, and I wanted it to help people. I wanted it as a lot of people. There was I think there was a couple of routes people were going down. They were either going down, getting a few drinks down them, or there were some that were really getting into keeping fit. And I just wanted to be out there offering as much as I could to whoever would listen, really. But I got quite a few. It was great. And yeah, it just kept things ticking over. But it was important for me to keep going as well. We're all in it together, they say, you know. So they help my students, or my practitioners help me as much as I've helped them. Probably more, if I'm honest.
Well, I was going to ask you actually about being a teacher. You know, what does that mean for you?
It's more of I consider myself more of a guide, really. The teacher is the practice, really. I just guide you through the sequence, and I'll give you technical help and assistance and things like that. I mean, you go under the title of teacher, but I'm more of I guide you through the sequence. I prefer that, I think, but you can't really put yoga guide, can you? But I think I prefer, I guide you through it, really. It's up to you. You teach yourself, you know, you learn from yourself with this practice. So I think that's
And I love what you said earlier about you learn from your students as well. You know, you're always learning from each other as well.
Oh, they help me. Yeah, absolutely. They teaching, like, do some of my classes, and the energy from them, and just watching them with their practice, and watching them grow, and seeing them develop, and seeing their faces when they can finally do a posture that they've been trying, and just this, and it, oh man, I knew it'd be rewarding doing this, like even just if I improve someone's life just that little bit, but how rewarding it is quite overwhelming. It's wonderful. It's really lovely. I've got a great bunch here, and they're really, I'm very proud of them.
Oh, that's beautiful. Just gave me absolute real tingles when you said that. Amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Energy today has been amazing. I have one last.
They've really embraced it.
Oh, I love that. I have one last very important question for you. Your favourite quote from the Goonies?
Oh my God! That wasn't in the list. Oh my God! The Goonies. I don't know if I can.
I'll give you a moment, just so people to explain. Melissa and I, Mel and I, knew each other a long time ago. We grew, and we probably used to watch the Goonies on a daily basis after school together when we were about 6, 5. You must have been about 5. I was probably at 7, 8. My sister and your sister. Yeah.
Oh my God!
Favorite quote.
I need to watch it again. I mean, there's the obvious one. There is the obvious one.
What's the obvious one? Hey, you guys.
That does come out of my mouth quite a few. Actually, yeah, no, I think that stayed with me. That quote. I've been known to scream that across parks and rooms and things. Yeah, walking into bars. Hey, you guys. Yeah, probably that one.
I feel like we have to end this interview, this conversation rather, on a hey, you guys together. Just because we just have to do it. Before we do that though, do you have any other words of wisdom or insights for our listeners and viewers?
Well, one that I've taken on is from a friend of mine. She said it to me when I was trying to decide what to do with my life, and she gave me some great advice, which I followed and I stuck with, and it's follow your heart. Follow your heart. Yeah. This can confuse matters. Follow your heart.
Definitely. I love that.
Breathe.
And don't forget to breathe.
The nose, not the mouth.
Oh, love that. Follow your heart. And actually, on that note, can you tell us where people can find you on Facebook?
So Yoga Tapas Mel Waters on Facebook and Instagram. I've just recently done a website as well, which is yogatapas-melwaters.com. So yeah, you can follow me on there. I've got heaps of classes, and I'm always available to do online stuff as well. So and any questions or anything really.
And you also said you can do it from the UK as well. You've got a UK class.
Yeah.
So brilliant.
Well, I do an evening class here where the timings are great. So so I do an evening class here, which my family tune in on. They just pop up, just pop them in the tablet in the corner of the studio, and they follow along. So yeah, it's good. It's nice.
Love it. Thank you.
Always available to help. Oh, thank you.
Your energy has been incredible. Thank you, Mel, so much. And I'll end it on a. We have to end it.
Hey, baby, rude.
And one more time. Was that the baby root? I love that. Love that. Mwah. Thank you so much. I love this. This has been an incredible conversation.
Oh no, thank you so much. Thank you for letting me rattle on.